Does the name John McEntee sound familiar at all? If it doesn't, maybe you've seen him on TikTok eating cute little snacks, or maybe you've seen him peddling his conservative dating app, or still maybe doing the walk of shame across the White House lawn when he was fired from the Trump administration for committing financial crime, which, Jesus Christ, what crime did he commit that was so bad not even Trump wanted to work with him? John is a former Trump advisor and current right-wing dating CEO who has been making cringe dad jokes on Twitter about how pronouns are stupid.
So I can't assume your gender, but you can assume I'm racist?
Fat shaming causes obesity.
Maybe telling everyone to stop fat shaming wasn't the best way to stop obesity.
And unhoused people are garbage.
Los Angeles is run exclusively by Democrats, and they're the ones that say they're going to clean up the environment.
Oh, and also admitting to committing the federal crime of circulating and potentially counterfeiting his own money by handing out $5 bills to unhoused people so they'll get arrested when they try to use it.
Then I give them like a fake $5 bill, so I feel good about myself, they feel good. And then when they go to use it, they get arrested. So I'm actually like helping clean up the community, you know, getting them off the street.
John is a fascinating guy because sometimes his critiques aren't completely unhinged. His exaggerated theater kid delivery does kind of ruin it, though.
I love how when these senators talk about the bill to ban TikTok, they say, you peasants, you don't understand. We've been given classified briefings by the intelligence community. The same intelligence community that told us there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? Okay.
Other times, his takes start off sounding reasonable, only to nosedive straight into hell.
I actually agree with these college kids that Palestinian children matter. I do, however, wonder if Palestinian children in their mother's womb matter as well.
I think he's trying to suggest that Palestinian mothers are terrorists, and if they're pregnant, you're not eliminating just one terrorist, but two. What a savings, you psycho. How half of his content is allowed to remain up on TikTok is bonkers. There have been multiple people who have criticized and commented on McEntee's content over the last couple of months, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, and honestly, his content isn't all that interesting to me. His mouth is, after all, a garbage truck of rage bait misinformation unloading its dumpster into the landfill of the internet. You'd have to be an idiot not to see that his content is specifically designed to be divisive. It's the easiest way to get attention anywhere there's a comments section to troll, so I'm not going to focus too much on his TikTok account. What I find far more fascinating is his career trajectory because he has one of the strangest CVs on the planet. McEntee grew up in California and later became a Trump lackey, which might be surprising to anyone who thinks California is a completely progressive sanctuary state and doesn't know just how many red counties there actually are here. It feels like a lot of people just assume California is San Francisco and Los Angeles and forget about all the bunker-dwelling preppers who live in the real Northern California. I should know, that's where I grew up, surrounded by hillbillies whose front lawns double as a trash can and could be mistaken for the average Floridian. At 25, he got a job as a PA doing social media for Fox News. Off to a pretty good start, but how the hell did he get this job? Before that, he was going by Johnny McEntee. How all-American, who was best known for being able to do football trick shots in college.
We couldn't figure out why Johnny is second string. Why aren't you the first string quarterback?
I don't know. Maybe I need to study the playbook more instead of doing trick shots.
Like throwing a completion blindfolded. The trick shot video was done in a single day. The last trick, the hardest, took more than 20 takes.
Nice shot!
If you're at all familiar with this guy now, that bit about studying the playbook more is Shakespearean level foreshadowing. I guess his qualifications as viral trick shot guy and worked as social media production assistant were enough to get him his next job as Trump's White House trip director. How any of this correlates is beyond me, but then again, his coworkers were people like Linda McMahon, yes, that Linda McMahon, who was head of the Small Business Administration, Steve Mnuchin, who previously produced propaganda movies like American Sniper, and some guy named Nick Brusky, who had a mysterious past as a truck driver who would act as a confidential assistant to the USDA's Foreign Agricultural Service, a petition that required a master's degree, something Brusky did not have. In fact, no one knew exactly what his education even was. Johnny McEntee really feels like the diversity hire who only got the job because he was the only person in Trump's administration who didn't look like a microwaved ghoul or a wax figure made by a blind person. He was eventually promoted to body man, which is just a cool way to describe a personal assistant, a title I'm sure he corrected anytime anyone called him the latter. Look at his face, of course he's that guy. He went viral again as Man in Red Tie after accompanying Trump to Saudi Arabia in 2017, I assume because he looks like every stock background henchman in a John Wick movie. 10 months later, McEntee was fired because he couldn't gain security clearance due to a shitload of gambling debt. Why he didn't just pay it off with his counterfeiting skills, we'll never know. For anyone else, that would have been it, and there's no way the same organization would rehire a former employee who was fired for being bad with money. Right? Except he was rehired in 2020 as senior advisor for Trump's re-election campaign. Yeah, put this guy in direct access to campaign money. He was to be responsible for overseeing the president's 4,000 appointments to federal bureaucracy. He was also meant to enforce the Law on the Allegiance of Civil Servants and Soldiers of the Armed Forces. A new law decreed that both members of the armed forces and civil servants had to swear an oath of loyalty to Trump. I'm just joking. That's what Hitler's cabinet did in 1934 with the Oath of Loyalty. But what he was actually tasked with wasn't far off. This part is real. He was to identify and remove political appointees and career officials deemed insufficiently loyal to the administration, despite having no previous personnel or people management experience. So, enforce an oath of loyalty to Trump. The perfect job for someone who made viral videos of throwing footballs into basketball hoops from the stands. McEntee has been a Trump sycophant from the jump, who pushed for fascistic policies while at the White House and continues to do so with Project 2025. If you're unfamiliar with Project 2025, where the fuck have you been? It's a collection of policy proposals that would reshape the federal government if Republicans win in 2024. And it's terrifying.
The Department of Education would be eliminated, cutting students off from civil rights protections and ending essential Title I funding for K-12 schools. The Department of Justice would go on a murdering spree. It would rush to use the death penalty and expand its use to even more people while circumventing due process protections. Project 25 not only calls for national book bans in schools, but also creates a list of banned words for the federal government that would be deleted from, quote, every federal rule, agency regulation, contract, grant, and piece of legislation that exists. Abortion care would be inaccessible and illegal no matter where you live. And I didn't even touch upon proposals for housing, climate change, worker protections, and more. If enacted, Project 2025 would destroy the federal government as we know it.
McEntee is the senior advisor on the project that was established in 2022, whose goal is to recruit tens of thousands of conservatives to the District of Columbia and replace existing federal civil servants who Republicans characterize as part of the quote-unquote deep state, and to further the objectives of the next Republican dictator, president. Basically, the document contains a maximalist version of the unitary executive theory, an idea that the president has absolute power over the executive branch upon inauguration, which you can hear a bit of the language being used in the arguments by Trump's defense in his Supreme Court immunity trial. This isn't some new theory, by the way, and was discussed in 1787, and as far as I understand it, was pushed in 2001 by Bush and Cheney to basically allow for them to sidestep the courts, particularly when it came to national security and the treatment of detainees during the Iraq War. And as proof that McEntee shouldn't be drafting documents of this scale and severity, according to a book by ABC News chief, Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl, he once copy-pasted an old presidential directive memo because he didn't know how to draft his own. It was intended to be used for initiating the withdrawal of US military forces from Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and Africa in the final days of Trump's presidency. A role he was not only unqualified for, but not even part of his responsibilities that he then actually got Trump to sign. I assume because Trump either can't read or wouldn't have given a shit about its forgery if he knew. It's most likely the latter. McEntee started from the humble roots as internet man who throws prolate spheroids at doors to becoming a key figure in the White House and future fascist dictatorship. For anyone else, that would have been a pretty full plate, but not for Johnny. He somehow found the time to start a right-wing dating site called, and I cannot stress enough how objectively genius a name this is, the right stuff. What inspired him to start this baffles the mind, considering his previous career moves. I mean, whatever he was gonna do would obviously be some kind of conservative grift, but a dating app? Although the more I think about it, the more it actually does make sense for him to diversify. Alex Jones has deer cock supplements or whatever, the Black Rifle guys do coffee, and McEntee went the tech startup route with something more specific than Twitter for conservatives. I think what's confusing about it is who he tapped to invest in the right stuff. Peter Thiel, seen here trying to exchange some of John McEntee's counterfeit money. Thiel, if you don't know, is a venture capitalist who focuses mainly on tech and startups like PayPal, Facebook, and Palantir, who is also a gay man. I only point this out because the right stuff prohibits the mention of gay relationships on the site. Now, this could just be a business thing, and maybe Thiel can separate the political beliefs of the businesses he invests in and his own. I mean, he is a self-described conservative libertarian, a confusing political ideology to say the least. The right stuff might be decently funded by a billionaire with some flimsy beliefs, but that doesn't mean it's a hit. I don't think I need to go into all the details, but conservatives and anyone who leans to the right politically tend to not be big fans of women despite their heterosexuality. And if you're gonna start a dating site for straight whites, you're gonna need to attract women to join. And also attract women. You know what I mean? The problem is the men who would be most likely to sign up for the right stuff want women who just cook and clean and are perpetually with child. They call it traditional values, but I call it a fetish. A weird, horrible breeding fetish. Because of the way women are viewed through the lens of conservatism and right-wing ideologies, the right stuff had a bit of a user problem. It went from 40,000 downloads in its first month to just 11,000 in the following 2 months combined, and shocked no one when it turned out most of its users were men. If that's not the gayest thing that could have happened to a straight white dating site, I don't know what is.
The dating world is so crazy. The other night I went out with this guy and I was like, what are your thoughts on kids? And he said, I'm not gonna have any kids. I feel like it's the worst thing you can do for the environment. Yeah, that's when I knew it wasn't gonna work out.
You know, I had a similar experience. This guy seemed normal on his profile. But when we went out, he asked, oh, do you mind paying? I left my gift card in my other fanny pack.
I didn't even get to go on my date. Sorry I'm late. You can ride on the front pegs if you want to get wild.
No one likes bad dates. Download the right stuff today and start going out with normal guys.
The ads are so ambiguous, the FTC should charge them with false advertising, especially when it says at the end, download the right stuff and go out with normal guys. Normal is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, and I guess that means misogynist with a gambling problem.
You're on the app too, right?
I am on the app.
Looking for love, potentially?
I'm potentially looking for love, yeah.
Clearly, this ad is aimed directly at women to join, a demographic they so desperately needed in order to be successful. In fact, most of the marketing was aimed at women by using testimonials from women talking about how they only date conservative men.
You just have to be a conservative.
Definitely someone that wants to have kids.
I like an independent man. Personally, I like the alpha male vibe.
I want a man who really loves his family.
Definitely someone whose faith is important to them.
For me, it's someone who actually wants to meet my parents.
Why do you want to date a conservative?
For me, at least I know that we're going to start off with some shared values.
Well, the conservative men I've dated at least know how to treat me like a woman.
In my personal experience, conservative guys have better manners.
I like that they understand their role in the relationship as a man.
I just prefer my men to be masculine.
Clearly, these are paid actors and not actual women who have or would ever use this app. Well, you're just speculating. How do you know, you libtard cuck? Because at least one of the actors, Arasha Lalani, says she was basically tricked into being in the commercial.
So I sent in a tape of like the lines they provided, and it was the lines that I read in the commercial. Like, it was not anything crazy. It was just simple.
Yeah,
like,
I watched the commercial. I wouldn't think it's for
yeah,
right
because you're just like, oh, this guy tried to. He asked me to pay. And
right.
Nah.
It's like a very basic, like,
right
bad date thing.
Yeah.
So I did a Zoom, and it was very professional. It was like a team of like 5 guys. And again, they gave me the outline. They did not mention, of course, at all, it being at all political. It was just like, this is a dating app. Like, this is the concept of it.
Arasha also says that when she found out what the commercial was actually for only after it aired, she immediately contacted the other 2 actors she worked with and they were just as shocked. On top of the app having a severe lack of women using it and making cringe, ambiguous commercials, some people who did join allegedly started getting calls from the FBI after answering questions about attending January 6th that the app has you fill out. And of course, conspiracy theories began to circulate about how it was actually a Democrat psyop because everything is a conspiracy concocted by leftists to these people. According to an article by the Washington Examiner, it was McEntee's girlfriend who actually gave him the idea, telling him that all of her friends wanted to date Republicans, but they just couldn't find any decent ones. Surprise, surprise. He told this to Cara Kennedy, the author of the article, over a bowl of ice cream in DC, a totally normal thing to eat while giving an interview about your conservative dating app that's full of men screaming about how patriotic and conservative they are in the reviews. Guy just can't not eat like a 12-year-old. He probably eats hamburgers with just the burger and cheese. Actual serial killer behavior. I think I just compared children to serial killers. The app lets you input the normal stuff every other dating site has, like height, religion, your photos, etc. And also includes prompts to really show off your totally unique personality you didn't adopt from Ben Shapiro. There are prompts like, my favorite liberal lie is, and January 6th was, and my favorite Bible verse is. Each account is apparently individually reviewed by McEntee and his partner in order to receive an invitation, and women are given free premium subscriptions after inviting 2 friends.
And for my ladies, you'll never have to pay because we all get premium subscriptions for simply inviting a couple friends. Gentlemen, if you want access to premium,
That's on you.
How feminist of them. All of Johnny's content comes from the official Right Stuff account, which doesn't even promote the app itself. Something I suppose I should be grateful for? Normally, social media accounts for businesses would be to promote the service it's trying to sell you, but he's either not making company-related content because the app is just another gimmick to generate clicks, or he's just really bad at business and money. Oh, right. Honestly, I'm not even sure viewers realize they're watching videos from a dating site social media account because McEntee treats the account as his own personal video diary where he's always eating something while chirping about immigrants or unhoused people like an alt-right Rusty Ryan from Ocean's 11. In the same Examiner article, he says, I think conservatism in general is becoming countercultural because of how far left everything went, which is objectively not true. Conservatism and far-right fascism are on the rise around the world, and liberal doesn't mean communist, something these people can't wrap their feeble minds around. Or they do know that, and it's all just more rage bait. Young people always want to be associated with something cool and radical. Ah yes, Mitch McConnell, the epitome of radical skateboard dude who does trending dances on TikTok. Gen Z has more conservative young men than my generation, millennials. The left went so far that young people are sick of it. I think the recent demonstrations and protests that happened across college campuses about a genocide that the average American is funding prove quite the opposite, you potato. Every single piece of content McEntee puts out can be debunked, criticized, and easily mocked for its hypocrisy. Like, he's mad about Trans Visibility Day coincidentally landing on Easter this year, but totally fine with Trump selling $60 Bibles on the same day. He complains about liberal cities and liberal establishments, but then spends all his time patroning the same establishments in a city he seems to fucking despise. He criticizes and mocks unhoused people in one of the most densely populated cities in the country, but ignores the same issues that exist in most red states that are subsidized by blue states like California. I swear to God, he just scrolls through conservative Twitter collecting things to repeat on TikTok as if they're his own unique thoughts. This man is a lazy joke thief. McEntee is a grifter who will continue to ride the TikTok popularity he's been experiencing, and then he'll bleed Project 2025 dry. I think what's most upsetting is that he'll be just fine and able to continue to complain about equity and inclusion and how certain people have something called inalienable rights, whatever those are. I probably shouldn't have even made this video if I'm being totally honest, but as with some of my past commentary on similar personalities, I do think it's important to call them out and shed some light on their existence, even for no other reason than to make people aware so they can also avoid and block them. That's the video. Thanks so much for sticking around if you made it this far. That means you're a pretty special radical skateboard dude, just like Mitch McConnell. Please be sure you like and share and comment. Did I say subscribe? Because you should do that too. Speaking of subscribing, you can go over to Instagram and you can follow me there because I've heard that it legitimizes my channel and it helps some sort of algorithm somewhere. I am working on the next big video. It's
big.
And it's taken me a lot to sort of wrap my head around the narrative and structure. I hope I can get it out a week after this video, but we'll see. Please go share my videos with people that you know, in your Discord chats, on Reddit. I think most of those places, they don't like self-promotion, so I'm not gonna be the asshole that does that, but I'm really trying to get the channel to 10,000 subscribers right now, and every little bit helps. Yeah, that's it. I appreciate you guys so much for continuing to support the channel and all the nice comments. And yeah, man, you're all just really great. And I can't express that enough. So until next time, vanish. Oh, thumbnail face. Shit, I always almost forget. That one's kind of funny, actually.